Hi there, welcome to Grain TV. I'm Kevin McNew. It is Thursday, May 4th, and a down day in the markets. For the day, we had wheat leading the charge to the downside. Chicago off 16 3/4, Kansas City off nearly 20, just a tick below 20. And Chicago corn was off 7 1/4. And July beans managed to close flat. November beans off 5 1/4. Really was all about wheat today as results continued to flow in on the last day of the Kansas crop tour. They released a final production estimate. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But before we get to that, let's take a look at export sales. Export sales this morning for the week were disappointing in the case of corn and beans, especially new crop. 2 weeks in a row with pretty much non-existent new crop sales. Look at soybeans at only 12,000 metric tons and corn at only 24,000 metric tons. That's 2 weeks in a row where we've seen no activity to mention in the new crop delivery. Old crop deals were fairly robust, but at the low end of expectations. Wheat, on the other hand, had a very good week. Both old and new crop besting expectations, but that did little to stem the tide in the wheat market as traders sort of breathed a sigh of relief, if you will, after the results of the crop tour. Let's take a look at what Kansas crop tour results found. And in particular, these are numbers that are going to be continued to be debated for some time. Obviously, the effects of the snowstorm over the weekend are going to be important. And the crop tour participants mostly sort of threw up their hands when they saw these fields that were damaged by significant snowfall because they just did not know how to estimate them. So I think in what we sort of take from these numbers perhaps is that these are maybe the best guesses and maybe the upside of what could be the production potential, because certainly some of the wheat was not able to even be estimated because of the damage involved. But when you look at what they came out with for the state of Kansas, they peg it at 281 million bushels, an average yield of about 46 bushels per acre. That is off substantially from last year's Kansas crop, 461. Now, interestingly, Oklahoma came out from a private grain company there. They did a survey and did some scouting, and they came up with an Oklahoma crop of 100 million bushels versus 137 last year. So take those two states, Oklahoma and Kansas, and that is 25% of all U.S. wheat production, not just winter wheat, but all U.S. wheat production. So 25% of the U.S. crop being pegged in these two numbers from various reliable estimates. And when you look at those numbers, those are off 38% from last year. Okay, keep in mind, obviously, last year was record high yields, so even normal yields would suggest lower production, but then you add on top of that the drop in acreage. So 37% drop in production expected in these two key states. What does that mean for the U.S. as a whole? Next week, when we get the crop report for May from USDA, this will be a survey-based number, but it'll have the same sort of problems that the Kansas folks ran into. Is what is going to be the impact from this damage? We don't know, but USDA will release their own winter wheat crop forecast in the coming months. So if we put all this together at this time, what do we sort of think is the potential U.S. size of all wheat production? And obviously it's a big wild card, but if you take last year's number, 2310, then I would say, we're looking at somewhere around a 1.8 to 1.9 billion bushel crop. That is sort of, anyone's best guess right now, but that's what I'm sort of leaning towards as we go into the report next week when USDA will put together their full season supply and demand tables for the 2017-18 crop year. With that in mind, that probably means our carryout for new crop wheat is going to drop from its current number around 1.1 billion bushels, probably somewhere in the low 800s, maybe even 700 million bushel carryout range. So I think that's a very favorable number to work with, especially with the uncertainty around the damage that we're seeing in the Kansas crop. Let's switch gears and talk about beans. Beans had a fairly good day in spite of the big sell-off in wheat and even the bigger driver in corn going down. So, when we look at July wheat, it has been managed to sort of backdraft against the downfall in wheat and corn in the last few days. So even though today was sort of a flat day on the final settlement, we did manage to post a higher high and a higher low on the bar here. So as we look at this daily bar chart from the Grain Edge trading platform, you can see we're not doing too bad in terms of generating some uptrend. Upside resistance right now around that 980 mark on today's high. So watch that going forward. I wouldn't be surprised to see us clear that tomorrow going into the weekend. That's all we've got for today on Grain TV. As always, if you'd like to learn more about how we can help you in your own grain marketing situation, including lowering your cost to only $7 a trade, visit us online at grainhedge.com. Have a great day. I will be on the road on Friday, and I will see you on Monday.